And I was doing a study of a city called Ahmedabad in West India. And when I was doing this study, I was confronted with one major question. Why is it that the discipline that I have graduated from, which was sociology, did not have much to say about urbanization and what is a city in an ex-colonial country? It is this question that led me to do much later a study on the history of sociology in India. And I have tried to compare this with countries such as South Africa or countries which are in Southeast Asia. But the two sets of issues that came up front for me to analyze was first that the discipline of sociology represented the region, the country, and in fact, almost the entire colonial world, ex-colonial world, as being enmeshed in rural, village level organizations. While, because I was dealing with this, trying to understand a city, there was another set of literature which suggested that cities in ex-colonial countries were needed to journey into the modern world and almost repeat the processes that had been there both in Europe and in North America. So I was confronted with two sets of literatures regarding the country. One in which the country was represented as being rural and oriented to settlements called villages. At another level, another set of literature, mainly imported from Europe and North America, suggested that the cities of the country will represent the journeys that were taken by the European countries in 19th and early 20th century. It is this two pathways that were embedded in the knowledge regarding both the urban and the rural that I think needs to be confronted if we have to understand what is urbanization today. And I'm particularly interested to engage with this with those who have presented their who have written and are going to present their papers, because it is something to do with not only the way the global production of knowledge has been organized, which is what post-colonial and decolonial studies have been discussing for quite some time now. But it's also about what kind of a theoretical framework we need to have to look at different ways in which urbanization is taking place. One of the stereotypes that have circulated and continues to circulate today is the fact that urbanization is equivalent to city formation. And I think it's very important that we look at that very seriously, because urbanization in the way it took place in 19th century Europe may not necessarily be what in the form of a city. It can be that villages get urbanized, where they become part of the larger or rural areas become part of larger markets of consumption, where labor and workers become part of the organization of small industrial units or all kinds of contractual work, and that these need not be related to being living in a city. This may be what is the situation in maybe South Asia or Southeast Asia, or even Africa, but may not be true of other parts of the regions like Latin America, which has already become urban to the extent of 75%, just as Europe has become. So we are dealing with different and uneven manifestations of being urban, depending on the scale we are talking about. And it is this diversity differences that needs to be taken into account when there is an attempt to generalize and universalize. And I would like to contend that this diversity has to be part of the global knowledge formation. Otherwise, we will be left without having competent theories to be able to understand what is happening in the world all over. I would like to also discuss another element that has concerned me. In a large part of the world, an attempt has been made to find a mooring to comprehend how to understand its own developments and processes by taking a nationalist position. And this is particularly true for for ex-colonial countries which have tried to use the nationalist frame to understand how to look at particular processes that are unique to its own region and its own territory. But in that process, they have disconnected themselves from the knowledge that needs to be constructed globally, which needs to be inclusive rather than being universal. So you have a situation when there is a universalization of the European experience at the expense of the processes that have taken place, which are different and distinctive in the ex-colonial countries. And then you have another set of dominant knowledges being constituted within national territories, which do not talk about other scales, local, regional scales, which are there to understand the uneven processes of capitalist development that are taking place. One of the theses that have been propounded is that cities are a representation cities represent accumulative capitalism because it allows for accumulation to take place. But there are other ways in which forms and places get organized as a consequence of capitalist accumulation. And it is extremely important to understand these different ways in which this is happening in various parts of the world. And it's my perception that if we accept this inclusive way of thinking, it would be possible for it would be possible for even European and North American, as well as experiences from the antipodes, to be more inclusive of the differences which are there among themselves, rather than universalize these differences across the world. It is thus my contention that we be careful in trying to generalize from theories that just simply universalize of whether it's global, it's southern theories, whether it is decolonial theories, whether it's post-colonial theories, because they give us the entry into critiquing Eurocentric ways of thinking, which was the way 19th and early 20th century theories were postulating what was happening at the level due to urban processes. But I think it's important to move beyond them to be able to understand in different scales how the urban is being articulated. I'm a historical sociologist. I look at it in terms of the historical process. And to me, this methodology is very important because it helps me to understand how space is organized and places are structured, both in terms of policy and in terms of interrogating these policies. It is these conflicts that organize ways to think about all kinds of formations of space that gets institutionalized in the dynamics of the global world system and within the interventions made by each national and regional state formations. Having said this, I would like to open up this discussion for others when we have when we have the presentations that are there in the next session. And I hope we can use this frame to look at the issues that you all are presenting in the next, the three of you are presenting in this first session that is there today. Thank you.